Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your first flip video. Just going to be doing the content that we're going to be looking at next day. You guys have a note template, so you guys are just going to be jotting down the notes as we go along, and if you have any questions, just be sure to write them down. For the most part, this is a pretty quick intro lesson just meant to reflect on what you guys hopefully should know when you come in, and if you don't, well, now you do. Okay, so first of all, everything's made up of either energy or matter. We're going to be focusing on this guy here, which is the matter, and more specifically on these atoms. And all an atom is, it's just the smallest part of an element, like the periodic table of elements you guys have seen, for example, gold, mercury, silver. So we can look at one of those elements, and it's called an atom if it can be broken down as small as possible, but still maintain its properties. So what it looks like, what it does. You can break it down further, but then it would lose all of that. You'll probably have to pause every once in a while just to make sure that you're getting these all jotted down, because I'm going to keep going. So pause it if you need to right now and jot it down. Okay, there's three particles that make up an atom. First one is a proton. This is the positive charge. Proton, I always think it's positive because of the pros and cons. Pros are positive, cons not so much. Electrons are the opposite. These ones have the negative charge. And then finally, neutrons with no charge. In terms of location, protons are located inside the nucleus along with the neutrons, and then the electrons are on the outside. So if we're looking at our atom, we would just have our protons and our neutrons on the inside, and then our electrons orbiting on the outside. Next thing, you may remember hearing ions. These are the same thing as atoms. The only difference is that they've either lost or gained electrons. And how this happens is certain atoms tend to want to either lose electrons or gain, depending on how many they have. All of the electrons, or all the atoms, want to have 8 electrons. We just do a little E with a negative sign to show electrons. That's how many they want. So if they don't have that many, they're going to either gain or lose in order to get that many. So for example, let's look at calcium. So calcium has 20 electrons, and it wants to lose 2. It wants to end up having 18 electrons. For reasons, if you remember from Chem 11, great, and if not, just take my word for it. So what it wants to do, it wants to lose 2 electrons. So if you look, all atoms are neutral, so they would have a balanced amount of electrons and protons. So you can imagine if you lose, and we'll just cross them out just so you can still see them. So if you're going to lose 2 electrons because they go away, well, look what happens to the overall charge. This cancels, and you're left with this positive 2. So just to reiterate, all an ion is that an atom, like calcium, that has either lost or gained electrons. So if you have this 2 plus, it means it's lost 2 electrons, which means it lost 2 negatives. Okay? And if any of this is confusing a bit, this is mostly just to get the main ideas across, and we're going to go into some detail in class and try to actually understand it. Bonding. So all bonding means is the joining of atoms. And if you haven't had me for a teacher before, I have messy writing. Very messy. But makes it interesting. You gotta decipher what it is. So we have 2 types that we're going to be talking about right now, ionic and covalent. Ionic is when we have those metals, metals and nonmetals. So the metals are usually the positive ions, the nonmetals are the negative ions. What happens here is that they're actually exchanging electrons. The metals are giving electrons to nonmetals to make them both happy. Covalent is the opposite. This is when we have 2 nonmetals that are joining, and they don't exchange anymore, they share because of their electronegativities, like we talked about last year in Chemistry 11. They like to share, neither of them want to give away their electrons, and so it's like a tug of war where no one wins. And like I said before, they all want to have 8 electrons in their outer shell, and by sharing or exchanging, they are able to do that. And what we call it, if there's 8 in the outside, is an octet. Okay, so just to summarize, should be a quick video for today just to get into it. You need to know the charges and locations of the particles, so the protons, the electrons, and the neutrons. How an ion is created, pretty much by either losing or gaining electrons. And then lastly, just the 2 types of bonding. We're going to be talking about a new type of bonding. Some people have seen it last year, hydrogen bonding, which is probably the most important one for us this year in biology. And here's just a little joke to get you going here. All right, so if you guys have any questions, write them down, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.